three of the Rings of Power, and I think this is my new favorite show. It's so like okay, House of the Dragon is a million times better, but this is the one I looked forward to all week, and it did not disappoint. By which I mean it completely disappointed, at least from the perspective of a J.R.R. Tolkien show and what we would ideally want. But hey, if you can't have that, at least we have whatever was happening in that horse riding scene. We'll get to that in just a second. Holy crap. I actually thought, the first half of this episode was a little bit better. It was boring, but, you know, that was maybe preferable. But man, are there some moments. And then we'll get to the Harfoots and the Isildur family and just all that. But, I was thinking we should be grateful because I don't watch the She Hulk show, but I have seen this image that's going around of She Hulk twerking with somebody who's apparently named, and I don't know if this is an actress or a character, and I don't care, Megan the Stallion. So if you haven't seen this, it's embarrassing. Like you'll feel empathetic embarrassment on behalf of the people in the show, the people watching the show. And so at least we haven't had that. At least we haven't had She Hulk twerking in this episode. It's probably coming at this rate. Holy crap. Okay, well, let's just get to it. There's a lot to talk about. I was actually going to do this last night, and then I was falling asleep halfway through the episode. Not because the episode was boring, though it kind of was. It's just because it's allergy season, and I don't know. My allergies were knocking me out last night. So I didn't get through the whole episode. It posts late. Central Time is where I am, so it's 11 p.m. So watch the rest of it tonight. Just finished a few minutes ago. Um, let's start with the horse riding scene. What was that? And if you don't know what I'm talking about, because you didn't watch the show and you're just here for the recap, let me explain as best I can. Um, so we've got Galadriel shows up on Numenor, and she's like at the dock town or whatever with Elendil, who's the guy from the end of the last episode. And then they decide they're gonna ride to the town. Okay, so pretty straightforward. So we start off with one of these, you know, horses riding across the plains scenes like we had a million of in the Lord of the Rings scene. Yeah, it's great cinematography, and like I said, I'm half nodding off at this point last night, and then all of a sudden, it's actually a fine moment. I mean, it's not like oh, the show's good now, but it looks good. It captures the scope and the epicness and everything. And then suddenly we're in a shampoo commercial. I'm not kidding. If you haven't seen it, you need to at least watch this part of the show. It's like 25 minutes in or something. And for tonight's episode, or look it up online. There's a GIF of it I found on Reddit. So it's out there. And it's Galadriel. It goes to super slow motion. And it starts with the horse's hooves slowly galloping through the spray. And the camera pans up, and she's shaking her head, and she's got the dumbest look on her face. She's like, it's. I'm not doing it justice because you can't do it justice. It's the most absurd thing, and then the show just goes on. Like the best part of the context is that there is no context. They just decided to put in a shampoo commercial, and it really does. Like if you see it, you'll know exactly what I mean. You've seen this commercial a million times. Like, oh, my life started gotten so much better since I started using Elron shampoo. This brand really did it. It also looks, like it could be a tampon commercial. So you can choose your feminine hygiene product uh, to interpret it. It's funny no matter which one you choose. It's really something else. But it does kind of get to something I noticed in this episode which is that there were a number of moments where it felt like they were directly referencing the Peter Jackson movies, but badly. So this was one of them. You know, of course, Peter Jackson has a lot of great horse moments, and you think of the scene where Shadowfax shows up for the first time, and it's like, holy crap, it's Shadowfax, and there's this sense of awe that we and the characters share, and this is them trying to do that, but failing completely. And then when we get to the Harfoots, we have one of like Papa Harfoot. I don't know his name, but he seems to be the leader, so I'm going to call him Papa Harfoot. He stands up and he starts giving a Bilbo speech like at the party. And then that takes some really weird vibes that I'm going to talk about in a minute. Very funny. And then at the end, we have during the big fight scene where the elves are trying to escape from slavery, we have the one elf who gets shot like 3 times. It goes slow motion and the music slows down, and it's exactly the Boromir scene when he gets shot with the arrows, except the difference there is we like don't even remember this guy's name. I didn't anyway. Maybe you guys are doing better, but I didn't. I have no clue who this character was. And we're supposed to be emotionally invested in his death. It's like they've done nothing. They've done nothing to set it up. And that's the thing. Everything in this show is completely unearned. They want us, it goes back to the everybody's harping on the Galadriel character, and they should, because she's horribly written. But it's throughout the whole show. Nothing is earned. Absolutely nothing. Nothing. So, okay, the Galadriel riding a horse thing is first and foremost just the greatest moment in this show so far. I didn't think they could top Galadriel jumping into the ocean. I was wrong. They did it the very next episode. It's just glorious. But then my other favorite part of this episode is when we find out what the Sauron sigil means. So Galadriel's been tracking this Sauron sigil, blah blah blah, who cares? And it turns out that it's a map of Mordor. Really? So this is when I start to feel dumb, because when I made my stupid predictions video, which you can watch on this channel, I predicted 10 stupid things for where this show's going to go. I wasn't thinking dumb enough, because this sigil that Sauron's just been laying around is actually just a map of Mordor. I was chatting with my friend Aaron Rainey about it. He mentioned, he brought up this is the same stupid plot device as in the Rise of Skywalker, which is probably an apt cinematic comparison to this disaster. I don't remember. I saw that movie once, but it's like they have a stupid Sith dagger at the beginning. But it gets better, because not only is it supposed to be a map of Mordor, which talk about just what? Like, raises so many questions. Why is Sauron just leaving this map around? And if it's for the orcs, like, do they have a large enough grasp of geography to know, oh, that's Mordor, we should go there? Okay. I don't know, but then the other best part is that they learn about this because I guess in Numenor there's a hidden spy report that somebody digs up. This old guy digs up, and he just brings it into the room with her and Elendil. And it's a spy report from who knows when, explaining the origins of the sigil. So that's convenient. Uh, doesn't make any sense. Whatever, we're just going to roll with it. And then it also has some explanation on there that the spy found, or he found this document or whatever, and it said they're going to build a land of their own. They being Sauron and his evil followers. The plan is to build a land of their own. Like here's where we'll be finally accepted. And then they say, so where evil will not only survive but thrive. It's like the fucking grapes of wrath. funny. It's so funny because it's just so absurd the way that she says it. Uh, like if you haven't read Grapes of Wrath, they're in Oklahoma. And they look at California as the promised land, and they pack up everything, and that's, I guess, what Sauron and the orcs are doing. But we find out that it's in the Southlands, which is where the black elf. I'm sorry, I don't know his name. I don't care that he's black, but I'm just trying to identify him so we all know who we're talking about. Is imprisoned, um, and so here's my prediction. Two predictions. Number one, the slave camp is actually them building Mordor and Barad-dûr and all of that. I think, that's pretty obvious. The second one then is that tower that we saw which is the watchtower, is going to be either Minas Morgul or the foundations of Minas Tirith, because we're going to reference everything from Lord of the Rings, which is, again, what I predicted, and I'm just going to keep doubling down on that. So that was something. All right. Also in Numenor, we meet Isildur, who, if you're not up on your Lord of the Rings, Isildur is the one, he's Elendil's son, and he's the one in the opening prologue for Fellowship of the Ring, cuts the ring off of Sauron's hand and claims it for his own, and Aragorn is the descendant of Isildur, and so you'll hear it referred to as Isildur's Bane. So this is the guy. And they completely pulled an Anakin Skywalker with him, which I think is the second time I've referenced that in relation to this show, but it's true. It's really, really bad. Like, there's a scene with him and Elendil and his sister, and it's just Isildur complaining about how he doesn't want to get on the boat. Like, Elendil wants him to go and get on this stupid boat, and Isildur doesn't want to, and they're just whining to each other. And then every now and then they cut to the sister, and she gets a sassy line of dialogue, and we learn that she's been accepted into the Builders Guild, but she didn't want, she got rejected at first, but Isildur encouraged her to keep going, and all the dialogue and whatever the polar opposite of Tolkien's grandeur. It's just this bizarre scene that feels completely out of place. I didn't have sassy sister on my bingo card for the show, but I should have. Again, my predictions were not dumb enough. I should have predicted Isildur is going to have a sassy sister. It's just incredible. Okay, so that's Numenor. We still have Haldir or Halbrand or Hodor, whatever the guy is that everybody's predicting is going to be Sauron in secret, and probably will be. And I guess he's a secret king. I don't know why. He's like the king of the south or something, and Galadriel's like trying to pull an Aragorn with him, so I don't know. He probably will turn out to be Sauron. I hope he turns out to be something, because I don't care a bit about his character right now. So being Sauron would be an improvement, I guess. Uh, let's talk about, get this thing going again. Let's talk about the Harfoots. I didn't think we were going to see them because they weren't in the first 40 minutes of this episode, and then they show up. And let me tell you, I'm getting some serious Wicker Man vibes from the Harfoots. Okay, so they're planning to migrate again. And when they migrate, they're undercover. And I've been trying to figure this out. Like, why? What's the point of the Harfoots being in disguise? Because we saw this in the first episode, where the guy with like the moose antlers came walking by, and then the Harfoots pop out when he's gone. And so and then we get this whole thing of them migrating, and then when they're migrating, they're wearing really bad disguises. Really, really bad. And I'm trying to figure this out, and then it clicks for me. They decided they're going to answer a mystery that was never a mystery. So the whole thing with the hobbits in Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit is that they've been overlooked by all the other peoples of Middle Earth for their whole history. They don't show up in the Silmarillion until the very end, where Tolkien's retelling the Third Age. It's like, so, the it's just the thing. It's like it's thematic. It's that nobody's paid any attention to the hobbits because they've been beneath the notice. They're not the great warriors. They're not the elves. They don't build great things like the dwarfs. They're just kind of there, but yet they turn out to be so important. It's the eucatastrophe, if you're familiar with some of Tolkien's terminology, for the unexpected, the blessing comes from where you wouldn't expect. So there's no mystery here, except that our showrunners have decided that there is. And so, in order to answer the mystery of why have the hobbits been overlooked, it's because they've been disguising themselves as bushes for 1,000 years. Like, it's really that dumb. Hey, somebody, this is like Metachlorians. Somebody thought this was a mystery that needed to be answered, and it's not, and they came up with the dumbest explanation possible. I mean, is there anyone who finished Lord of the Rings, books, movies, I don't care, and said, man, I wish we'd gotten an answer for why the hobbits were so overlooked? No! Nobody does. It's obvious. It's because they're just, farming, gardening, and going into hobbit holes and drinking ale. It's like they're not, it's obvious why they're overlooked. But we've now, that mystery's been answered. One more thing about Isildur before I forget. I'll come back to the Harfoots and their Wicker Man vibes. I have not forgotten that payoff. One more thing on Isildur. So I was looking on the Wikipedia page for Rings of Power, and there's a note in the cast list for Isildur that quotes the showrunners, and I have, I didn't look up the source independently, but I think it's got some source on Wikipedia, so I'm gonna believe it's true. And the showrunners are comparing Isildur to Michael Corleone from The Godfather. Really, really. I hope they stretched before making that reach. All right, Harfoots and Wicker Man. So we get this whole thing where after the birthday party speech, Papa Harfoot starts going into a little chant about the ones we left behind. All the Harfeets that have died along the way. And you're like, something's off here, because some of them are like gotten eaten by wolves. Which, I'm sorry, but it's just kind of funny to picture these little dipshits getting eaten by wolves. But other ones, it's like, got stuck on the side of the road. And then we find out that that the whatever Brandyfoot family that Nori is a part of has to, because of the whole stranger and her helping the stranger, which is against the Harfoot laws, and whoever breaks the Harfoot laws will be de-caravanned, which I think I've seen enough folk cult movies to know that's a euphemism for getting killed. So they have to be at the back, because they're not going to get de-caravanned, but they're going to be at the back of the migration caravan, which is, I guess, they all look at each other like it's a death sentence. So here's my headcanon, which is normally a concept I hate. I hate the phrase headcanon. I'm not going to use it here because the show's too dumb to care. Is that the being in the back of the migration caravan is the equivalent of getting to go inside the Wicker Man. And if you don't know that reference, go watch the Wicker Man, not the Nicolas Cage one, please. Go watch the original one, and you'll understand that it doesn't go well when you wind up being the one in the Wicker Man. Or you're the winner of the lottery if you're a Shirley Jackson fan and want to go back that far. Essentially, it's ritual death. So, hobbits, everyone. It's not all gardening and beer. It's also cultic ritual murder. Oh, it's just great. And then we get maybe Gandalf, who helps them, and so they'll all be okay. All right, the last thing in this episode is the elf who's imprisoned, and we get this battle scene And the battle scene is interesting because if you haven't caught on yet, uh, and you're wondering, well, how powerful are the elves in this story? Because we see one elf get killed relatively easily. The orc just sort of walks up and slits his throat, and then we see our the black elf do this weird thing on the chains, which is like he runs up these chains and does a super Smash Brothers move, and it's similar to that moment in Battle of Five Armies where Legolas was running on thin air. Didn't make sense then either. And then we've had, of course, Galadriel swimming through the ocean. So, the elves seem to be super powerful sometimes and not powerful others. And so, if you're confused, I'm going to clear this up for you. How powerful are the elves in this show? They are exactly as powerful as the script needs them to be. And if the script needs them to be just normal powerful, that's what they are. But it changes moment to moment. They got a little dial, saying, "Oh, now the elves are just regular human. Here they're Superman. Here they're Jesus Christ." It's like the dial goes all the way up to Jesus. That's how I'm picturing this. We do see a warg, and the CGI on the warg looks awful. Like it looks like a cartoon. The wargs from the trilogy 20 plus years ago look better than the wargs in this show so far. Which normally I don't care that much if the CGI is a little wonky. I'll care about story. I love a lot of things that have bad CGI. But when like your only claim to quality right now is that your show looks good, maybe make sure it looks good. The other weird thing in this battle is when it descends into a tug of war. Like, I don't know what's going on there. And then the episode ends with our elves that we're following getting taken to the big bad from the orcs, who I forget his name, but it's like Arnor or something like that. Take him to Arnor. And they do. And the episode ends with the orcs chanting Arnor, Arnor, Arnor. It's very funny. He's apparently looks humanish from the bit we saw of him in the last second, so I'm going to go ahead and say he's going to be a Nazgul too. Man, I can't wait for next week. I'm so sad there's only 8 episodes. Like, this show's almost already halfway over for the season. Uh, just a gem. I mean, what trash. What absolute trash, but it's so entertaining. All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. I loved every second. Uh, I hope you guys did too. I hope you enjoyed enduring my cackling at this episode. And if nothing else, at least they've got some great B footage that they can sell to an ad agency for the next hit shampoo commercial. It's like Super Bowl worthy shampoo ad. All right, everyone. I'll talk to you later.